Thank you very much for choosing to begin your day with us right here on the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Kiage. We are online at Lookuptv across your social media platforms. There's a lot happening in the country as regards the economy. This morning we're waking up with the news that the shilling is already at 150 shillings against the US dollar. That essentially means that there's a big stress on the traders in the country who are importing the wares and goods into the country for services and direct business. Now, if you look at where the official CBK rate is, it's at 142 and 98, the biggest or the highest we've ever seen. If you look at who is essentially being hit heavily, that is on a debt and imports, essentially what the major casualties in that particular state right there. All right, if you look at where we are this morning in as regards the Finance Act 2023. Now, the Court of Appeal yesterday declined to repeal the implementation of a couple of clauses in that particular Finance Act 2023, saying they could not undo what the previous court has essentially made a ruling on. But EPRA, boss was summoned to court today over fuel taxes row. You did say that after the courts essentially ruled on the conservatory orders that barred the implementation of the Finance Act 2023, the EPRA boss essentially went right ahead and introduced those taxes. Now that's a developing story from that particular hearing yesterday. This and much more on what we have prepared for you this morning. We'll be talking about the state of politics in the country. So we look at where we are headed even as we gather speed to the bipartisan talks that are slated to begin tomorrow. That is the inaugural talks around the bipartisan negotiations. The hashtag is the Morning Drifts. Again, my name is Simba Kiage. We are at Lookuptv across all the social media platforms. Join us. We are live around all of them as well. We come back, I'll be taking you straight to whatever it is that we're waking up to this morning in your dailies. Right, so let's then look at what it is that you're waking up to this morning. We're going to start with the Daily Nation. There's a story there that you're going to run into, other than the big headline that the Daily Nation has woken up to this morning. There's the dam scandal. Now, Senator's farm was paid 2 billion shillings for this thicket. That's what they're saying, that in 2009, Midrock Water Drilling Company, owned by Mohammed Chute, now Marsabit senator, started construction of Badassa Dam. On completion, it would have stored 5 million cubic meters of water, sufficient to quench the thirst of long-suffering residents of Marsabit town. But they say today, there is no such water fountain, only deep money pit in a shrub. That particular story has been covered on page 12 of the Daily Nation this morning. So you can actually get yourself a copy and get to read this particular story. Same story covered on page 7, forced NYS style drill for students. Now mandatory 3 months community service after senior. That was in the 80s, by the way. Students underwent pre-university national youth training. Some proposals are getting proposed by this new education committee that is saying that a mandatory 3 months community service after senior school, as well as 9 months upon completing university and college, will be required of graduates before securing employment if education reforms by President's task force are implemented. That particular story has been covered on page 7 of the Daily Nation. Get to read on it. There's the talks. There's a conversation on the talks in the country. RUTO Raila rule out power sharing ahead of crucial talks. President RUTO sustains the onslaught on the opposition, declaring his government will speedily conclude negotiations with rivals so long as power sharing is not on the table. Now, National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah insists on talks open to public at the Bomas of Kenya tomorrow. That particular story has been covered on page 4. And same thing, our opposition leader Raila Odinga has stated that he is not interested in a deal to join government, and he has branded illegitimate and popular. But he insisted the ruling coalition should not dictate the issue for discussion. His team has listed a high cost of living and an audit of last year's presidential election as a part of their grievances. That particular story has been covered on page 4. On the sidelines of that, there's a radical plan for state to control matatu fares in specific routes in the country. Read that particular story on page 3. And there's a bill that is sitting at the National Assembly that proposes to amend the law to allow an estranged couple to separate by mutual consent. A particular story has also been covered on page 14. That's where we are. All right, let's cross over to the Standard this morning. Bigger story here is how RUTO maintains tough conditions ahead of talks. That's the first story that has been given the limelight here on the Standard. And this is what the Senate President yesterday said. He is ready for dialogue with the opposition, but he won't be blackmailed into using violence, and that power sharing is off the table. As his henchman also ruled out talks on the cost of living. A particular story has been covered on page 13. There's a quote here that I heard our brothers in the opposition agree with us that just like us, they're opposed to the handshake. Now they have declared so. They should go ahead and agree on ending violence, and through that, we shall agree on everything else. That particular story is again on pages 13 of the Standard. Now, there's a story on page 3 on Thogoto shame. Elders abandoned, abused in home. A story was also covered by the BBC yesterday, so you can actually get to read that particular story on page 3 of the Standard. Story here on Sosiani feeds power to National Guard. The particular story has been covered on page 7. There's a story here about close to 600,000 students who sat for KCC last year did not opt for placement to universities or colleges. For some, the cost was prohibitive, but for others, it was out of ignorance. That story has been covered on page 8 of the Standard. 600,000, that's a lot of students were supposed to join university but did not because of those various reasons. Lastly, on the back page, there's how on Sports Day, Arsenal seemingly ready for title chase after, well, beating City in the Community Shield. Now, you do know, majority of these stories are covered on our website. That is at www.lookup.co.ke. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to the newsroom where we get to look at some of the stories that you're also waking up to this morning. Now, medical doctors from Embu have given the county government of Embu a 21-day strike notice if they fail to address their work-related issues. Speaking after a consultative meeting in Embu, the KMPDU National Secretary General, Dr. Javi Bimji, noted that the county government of Embu had failed to remit statutory deductions owed to health practitioners in the last 5 months.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever for the union.
County of Embu a notice for strike that will be beginning on the next 21 days, that's 28th. But at the same time, we are taking the Embu County to court for actually deducting the statutory deductions from the doctors are not limiting to the respective bodies. In the last about 5 months, the county has not remitted any statutory deductions that have been deducted. These are different. That we have like NHIF that's not been remitted of about 8 million. We have about unions that have not been remitted up to 5-6 million. We have loans that goes up to 60 million of doctors that have not been remitted. We have SACCOs and insurances that have not been remitted over 40 million. So all these doctors, they get a salary sometimes and they go to the bank and they're not able to access the money because this has been withheld by the different banks. So it's actually an injustice and immoral for the counties to deduct the salaries, to deduct the statutory deductions and fail to remit to the respective bodies. That's what we're demanding, that they have to remit these immediately.
But we want to send a warning because even within this particular 8 months, there is no step that has been taken by the county government of Embu towards solving the crisis of shortage of doctors in Embu County, promoting doctors in Embu County, payment of statutory deductions. Essentially, it is illegal for somebody, to deduct your money and not submit it in your bank. Some of the people, some of our colleagues here in Embu County are losing their properties to the bank.
Kakamega County Governor Fernandez Baraza has called on the medical fraternity to make use of medicine distributed by KEMSA to help the people of Kakamega. The governor spoke during a drug distribution drive in the county, also added that his government is keen to ensure that there are no loopholes that will see the misuse of drugs meant to treat patients in Kakamega.
Speaking when he flagged off a consignment of drugs and non-pharmaceuticals worth 240 million to be distributed to facilitate in the 12 sub-counties in Kakamega. Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza has issued a stern warning to officers diverting and reselling drugs and non-pharmaceuticals meant for public facilities.
Anybody found stealing drugs, ama ukienda kule CGH waambiwa kuna madawa, we want that information kuja kwa ofisi so that we take corrective action.
Baraza has said his administration has put a system to ensure the drugs and equipments can be tracked and officers held accountable. The drugs flagged off will be tracked using an automated system from the distribution up to the stocking up in the public facilities.
Those drugs are through an automated system where we'll have a proper inventory of the drugs through our health management system, and the issuance of those drugs again will be done through the system. Besides that, we have also put in place surveillance because we must seal all the loopholes. And I want to assure you that my government is committed to making sure that madawa siko hospitali zetu are not just buildings.
Kevin Yaparo, Lookuptv.
Right, let's move on then to the next story this morning, where Bungoma County Governor Ken Lusaka appeared before the Senate Public Accounts Committee to answer questions arising from the Auditor General's report that indicates that there was misappropriation of funds in the county. Stanley Lugaria with a particular story.
Bungoma County Governor Kenneth Lusaka availed himself together with the county officials before the County Public Accounts Committee to defend himself against the reports by Auditor General that placed the county at the center stage of misappropriation of public funds.
With alternative projects that are currently complete as indicated in Appendix 4A. Because if they are halted, the question would be, was there any payment before they stopped? If there was no payment, then it was not an expenditure.
Lusaka pointed an accusing finger to the previous regime for increasing the number of county employees, claiming that the leadership authorized the employment of county officials against the law.
Chair, we have the listings of all the credit bits amounting to 35.
Yes, that would be important for us to see so that we can look at the dates from them and we get a picture of their age. That we can do. Yep, clerk.
In the report by Auditor General, in a span of a year, the county was found to have witnessed an increase in the number of employees from 5,000 to 7,000, stalled projects including the construction of a road that was begun 6 years ago when Governor Lusaka was the county boss, and construction of 3 unused wells whose water has since been found unfit for human consumption.
The management has prioritized the following action points so as to avoid further accumulation of ongoing and stalled projects. One, all ongoing projects are required to be disclosed to the county treasury and sufficient information provided on whether the projects have sufficient budgetary provisions for further consideration and prioritization. Two, all stalled projects are required to be disclosed to the county treasury and their reasons thereof for stalling for further consideration and prioritization. And three, timely preparation of the annual procurement plan by the 30th May 2023 so as to initiate procurement processes in time.
The leadership of Bungoma County defended itself against the allegations that the market area construction project was stopped, claiming that the stoppage was as a result of construction or contractors not being paid by the just exited regime, an issue the current county government is dealing with. Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Now, National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah says the government and the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party have agreed on the Bomas of Kenya as the venue for the inaugural meeting. Ichung'wah made the announcement during President William Ruto's trip at Mukurumweni, Nyeri County. Ichung'wah stated that this followed discussions with the Azimio team leader Kalonzo Musyoka.
As days to have the dialogue between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza first approaches, Leader of Majority in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, has announced that Kenya Kwanza and Azimio leaders have settled on the Bomas of Kenya as the venue for the much-anticipated talks.
Na leo Mheshimiwa Rais asubuhi nimeongea na Mheshimiwa former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka na tumekubaliana Wednesday saa 5:30 tutakutana pale Bomas. Sio kwa hoteli. Niliwaambia hakuna chai na hakuna pesa ya kununua chai na hakuna allowance. Tutapatana hapo Bomas, tukae chini, tuongee mambo ya mwananchi wa kawaida.
Speaking in Nyeri, Ichung'wah, who is leading the Kenya Kwanza side, said they had agreed on the Bomas of Kenya as the venue for their inaugural meeting on Wednesday. The dialogue team will hold its first joint meeting this Wednesday after push and pull on the right date following Azimio's proposal for Monday.
Na tuliwaambia jana, sisi tuko tayari kuongea mambo yanayohusu mwananchi wa kawaida. Mambo ya kibinafsi, mambo ya kugawa mamlaka, mambo ya nusu mkate, mambo ya handshake, hayo hayako kwa meza ya sisi kuongea na wale marafiki zetu.
The venue of the talks became a subject of debate in recent weeks, Ichung'wah saying the meeting must be held in the glare of cameras to prevent Azimio from giving any personal demands.
Na tumesema agenda zile 5 rais ulituambia tuende tuongee, tutakuwa nazo kwa meza. Wakileta zingine tutawasikiza kwa heshima. Lakini mambo ya cost of living, Mheshimiwa Rais, hiyo umewaambia na tunawaambia ndio kazi wananchi wa Kenya walikuajiri uwafanyie. Kwa hivyo cost of living, hiyo ni kazi ya rais na serikali yenye imechaguliwa na inafanya. Kazi ya gharama ya maisha sio mambo ya kuongea, ni mambo ya kutenda. Na rais haongei, anatenda. Kanatiku adwaito.
Azimio leader Raila Odinga has insisted that the dialogue between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, which aims to end the 2022 post-election crisis, must end by October 30th, failure to which they will embark on protests, terms that the Kenya Kwanza side is opposed to. Brana Mwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Now, President William Ruto did make his Mount Kenya tour that has essentially entered its 5th day, that is yesterday, and launched a 45-kilometer construction in Nyeri County. Ishamara Rutune route that is expected to be completed in a span of 6 months. William Ruto is set to launch several development projects in that region, projects that have been applauded by his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, saying that they will serve as economic enablers. Ruga Ival with the details.
President William Ruto has launched the upgrading of the Maram Ichamara Thangade Rutune Road, a launching that will see the road network upgraded to a tarmac one. Ruto, who is in Mount Kenya for a 5-day expedition, is accompanied by several government officials and is targeting to launch a slew of development projects in that region.
Kama njia ya kuhakikisha kwamba kuna kazi ya hawa vijana. Ile maneno tunaagiza kutoka nje, sijui tunaagiza furniture, tunaagiza simiti, tunatoa chuma kutoka nje, hata samaki tunatoa China. Mimi nimesema kuanzia mwaka huu hakuna samaki itatoka China tena, hakuna kitanda italetwa tena kutoka Ulaya, hakuna simiti tena itatolewa sijui kutoka wapi. Simiti tutatengeneza hapa Kenya na vijana hawa wetu watafanya kazi hiyo.
Ruto was in the company of Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, who has applauded Ruto's form of leadership, resonating it to that of the late President Mwai Kibaki.
Na wewe rais, ukifuata hiyo rais njia ya Mwai Kibaki, hawa watu ya udhaya watakupenda milele. Na hiyo njia ya Rais Mwai Kibaki ndio njia ya kutengeneza Kenya.
On his side, Cabinet Secretary for Transport Kipchumba Murkomen has complained and condemned the distractions caused by the opposition wing, fearing that repairing them will cost them a whole lot.
We want an assurance as a Ministry of Roads ya kwamba wanasiasa wote, Kimani Ichung'wah akiwa majority leader, akienda kukutana na marafiki wake, condition number 1 wajiandikishe ni kwamba hakuna infrastructure itachomwa tena na barabara haitachomwa matires kwa sababu hatuna pesa ya wananchi kuwaste.
Ruto on Saturday embarked on an extensive tour of the region that will see him traverse through Kiambu, Kirinyaga, Laikipia and Nyeri counties. Gachagua, the region's foremost political leader, said the development projects would be a game changer for the region's economic prospects. Tomorrow, President William Ruto will be commissioning the Kaigonji water project in Tetu constituency. Ruga Evil, Lookuptv.
Now, on August 7th, 1998, the bustling streets of Nairobi were shaken to their core as a devastating bomb blast rocked the city. Now, the events that unfolded left a scar on the nation, reshaping its path forever. Brian Amoy revisits the 1998 bomb blast scenario.
25 years ago, the heart of Nairobi, Kenya was forever changed as a devastating act of terror sent shockwaves through the nation and the world. The U.S. Embassy in Nairobi engulfed in flames, thick plumes of black smoke billowing into the sky, and a chaotic scene of emergency responders and civilians. On August 7th, 1998, an unthinkable tragedy unfolded as twin bombings struck simultaneously in Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. The targets, the U.S. embassies in both cities. The orchestrators, Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization led by Osama bin Laden. As the sun rose over Nairobi's skyline August 7th, seemed like any other ordinary morning, but unknown to the city inhabitants, a malevolent plan was about to be set into motion. At precisely 10:30 a.m., a deafening explosion erupted near the United States Embassy, releasing an ominous plume of smoke and debris into the sky. The ground shook, windows shattered, and chaos ensued as the streets filled with panic-stricken individuals desperately searching for their loved ones amidst the chaotic scene. Emergency services rushed to the scene, struggling to comprehend the extent of the devastation. The facade of the embassy was reduced to rubble, leaving behind a haunting silhouette against the Nairobi sky. Nearby buildings were shattered, their interiors exposed like open wounds. The force of the explosion had left a mountain of debris, a solemn reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded. As the city grappled with the aftermath, authorities began the painstaking process of unraveling the mystery behind the attack. It was soon revealed that the bomb had been a truck laden with explosive, strategically positioned to maximize destruction. The investigation pointed towards the involvement of Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization led by Osama bin Laden. Now, this revelation sent shockwaves not only through Nairobi, but also across the global community. In the wake of the tragedy, Nairobi united in grief and resilience. The injured were rushed to hospitals and makeshift aid stations were set up to provide assistance to the affected. International support poured in as the nation stood in solidarity with Kenya, condemning the senseless act of violence. The scars left by the 1998 bomb blast are still evident in Nairobi's landscape and its people. The blast site has been transformed into a memorial, a somber reminder of the lives lost and the resilience of the survivors. The tragedy prompted increased security measures worldwide, forever altering the way nations approach counter-terrorism efforts. Brian Amoy, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
The Azimio co-principal Martha Karua and the Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, among other Azimio leaders, have joined thousands in Kenya in remembering those who died in the August 1998 bomb blast. Leaders who attended the service are pushing for a message of compensation for those who lost their loved ones, as well as the survivors of the bomb blast.
25 years later, still these faces reflect on the pain they had to go through, a tragedy that left them with scars. Today, they gathered at the Memorial Park to remember those who died from the terror attack.
Victim of the August 7th, 1998 U.S. Embassy bombing. And I just want to say, first and foremost, I just thank God that I'm able to be here standing before you all. And I just, one thing I want to say is that I hope that today will be a memorial that is not looking at the past in despair, but actually a day where we can have a celebration of life.
Kwa majina anaitwa Abdulmuhsin Hassan Ukai. I'm one of the victims of a 1998 bomb blast. When that incident happened, I have lost my father in that destruction. So by then I was 6 months. I have grown up as an orphan. So today we come here in memorial to remember, and we want USA government, because all those people have died on their behalf and at their embassy. We want the US government to compensate for the victims of 1998 bomb blast.
Compensation for the victims was championed for by different leaders, with the Senate ad hoc committee promising to seek justice on behalf of those affected.
I'm more aware about the Kenyan case. And I've been reflecting this morning and asking, what could we have done better as a country, as government, because there was a period I was in government. What could we have done better to expedite compensation for the victims? What could the US government have done better? Yes, we are friends. What could we have done as friends to ensure that there is closure for the victims?
Hawa wa Kenya pia mungewaweka kama wana Kenya kwanza, to stand with them, to keep working with the American government to ensure that justice is done and compensation is received. And even as we go into the future, we want to urge the American government, as our partners, let us continue strengthening our partnership in the war against terror.
The Senate is currently probing plans laid to compensate the victims, have assured victims to be endlessly working to ensure the justice they seek is served.
Through the U.S. Victim of State-Sponsored Terrorist Act, we request consideration to make Kenyan victims eligible to participate in the U.S. Victim Terrorist Compensation Fund.
Victims and survivors of the bomb blast attack that took place 25 years ago have gathered here today for a memorial service here at the Memorial Park in remembering the loved ones, asking the government of Kenya and the US government to come in terms for compensating the loved ones. Mavin Getembe, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Right now, the High Court has declined to suspend sanctions of the Finance Act as the hearing of the petition officially kicks off with a three-judge bench. Now, the judges consolidated all the petitions, giving petitioners until August 10th to amend their petitions. Replies must be filed 7 days later on August 17th and supplementary affidavits by August 24th, with all documents limited to 10 pages. Now, the court's decision comes after a hearing on July 29th where petitioners argued that the Finance Act violates the Constitution. Now, the government argued that the law is valid and that it is necessary to raise revenue. The next hearing is scheduled for September 13th.
The case filed against the implementation of the Finance Act by Busia Senator Okiya Omtatah, the Law Society of Kenya and several NGOs was today heard by the three-judge bench comprising of David Majanja, Christian Mioli and Lawrence Mugambi,
after the appointment by Chief Justice Martha Koome.
First of all, the Court of Appeal, in its decision, observed that the High Court can actually give orders suspending specific provisions of the Act. That was given by the Court of Appeal. And so, in the circumstances, if you were to proceed and give an order, you would not be.
However, Justice David Majanja declined to issue interim orders against the implementation of the finance bill, with the 3 judges consolidating all the petitions with the hearing set for the 13th and 14th of next month.
Once the Court of Appeal lifted the suspension, it meant that the Finance Act would be implemented. Although the court stated that the court could consider suspending specific provisions of the Act, whose implementation would have an irreversible effect, and where parties cannot be refunded, we are not persuaded that we should exercise this jurisdiction at this stage, in view of the fact that those issues were all before the court when it made the decision. Any petitioner in any of the respective petitions who wishes to amend their petitions may do so, to file and serve their respective petitions by 10th of August 2023. By 10th of August 2023. If the petitioners wish, they may file their supplementary affidavits, but they should file their written submissions on or before 24th of August 2023.
The session was, however, not short of drama after Busia Senator Okiya Omtata differed with Justice Majanja over the dismissal of his application to cross-examine National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula and his Senate counterpart Amason Kingi over their replying affidavits.
Consequently, we reject the applications to cross-examine Speaker of the National Assembly and Speaker of the Senate. Those applications are dismissed.
If these people can't defend their affidavits, then the affidavit be struck off the records. We need a fair trial, and we need an equal, and the authors cannot be cross-examined on them. I need to be heard. I need a fair trial in this court. I need to cross-examine the Speaker of the Senate, who is my Speaker, and my junior.
Omtata will have made a ruling, and thank you very much for your observations.
The hearing comes after Justice Mugure Thande forwarded the files to the Chief Justice Martha Koome after issuing conservatory orders, only for the Court of Appeal to lift the orders a week later, with the court summoning EPRA Director General Daniel Kipto over contempt of court. Omtata, however, after the ruling, slammed the Treasury over misappropriation of funds through the budgeting process.
The budget itself, we have identified a lot of theft. What we believe is theft, or open theft by, at this place I would think is the people in the Treasury, who are fixing things within the budget for them to steal, and it runs into hundreds of billions of shillings. So we are going to bring out all those issues.
Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
All right. Now, the conversation this morning is around the talks that have been slated for tomorrow. That's the inaugural talks. See, yesterday we started by saying there are some questions that we needed to answer. And it's quite possible that for every other situation that you're going to find a solution for, there are some questions that have to be clear. Let's start with the 5 W's and H. So the where, who, why, when, that is now been answered. But there's some questions then that have not been answered. There's the what. It's still not clear, yeah, even as we go for those inaugural talks. And then there's the how, that is also not so clear as they get ready for those talks. Now, let me tell you what it's not clear. The what is that the issues that are going to talk about are still not clear. Kenya Kwanza side is saying, when it comes to the cost of living, you have a plan for it, so we don't think that that's an issue. When it comes to the audit of the 2022 general polls, done and dusted, we don't want to talk about it. But then the Kenya Kwanza side, the Azimio side is saying that if indeed we are going to have those talks, then this must be the issues. So let's look at the how. The how is that Kimani Ichung'wah led side is saying this has to be public. That's why we're going to the Bomas of Kenya. And if the media wants to come and attend those talks as well, they can join us. So we have that conversation. But then there's Azimio side saying, only talk to the media or any other person once we release a joint statement that this is what we've agreed upon. But then on the sidelines of that, there is a lot that is happening around those conversations. Join us this morning. We do have Prof. Ogola in the studio this morning. I do see Nabiso Bran. I do see Ken Sankara. Just once we come back, we'll be talking to this gentleman so we can lay that particular conversation. Good morning. Gentlemen, how are you doing? Karibu sana.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lelima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lelima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
It's time to restart, rescale, and talk about health matters.
If you get exposed to high fluoride between 0 to 12 years, your teeth will be permanently discolored.
Wake up, eat healthy, and keep fit. With the help of health experts, we will help you understand different health conditions and how to treat them.
Dental fluorosis is an irreversible condition that affects the outer layer of your tooth.
This is your health journal. My name is Wanjugu Washira. Every Wednesday from 8:30 p.m.
Everything will be well discussed here on this platform.
Only on Lookuptv.
So the story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew with the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Kiage.
Today we are at St. John's Hospital here in Githurai. We are here in conjunction with Total Care Box.
Once again tuko hapa Angel Center for Abandoned Kids.
Tumekuja hapa Gatora tukiwa na mwariko wa kuitwa na hawa watu wa RUTO.
Tuko hapa Kaptara, tunataka kusema asante sana RUTO Foundation kwa mambo mazuri ambayo wameweza kutufanyia leo.
To the RUTO Foundation, thank you so much for remembering us. Guys, we lack words. We lack words. We don't know what to say.
Mimi ya leo kwanza ni kushukuru RUTO Foundation wakiwa pamoja na Total Care kwa sababu ya kuangalia mama wetu.
Tumeshukuru sana kwa wao wageni wa RUTO Foundation kwa kututembelea hapa. Hatujawahi kutembelewa na watu wengine kama sisi wajane. Tumeshukuru, Mungu ambariki na amzidishe ule upendo na kwingine mnaenda, na tumemkaribisha tena na tena na tena. Asante RUTO Foundation.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the Lotto Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your number one show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home.
When the food is ready.
You want to serve them? Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. We are online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Well, you can talk to us. The hashtag is the Morning Drift. And as we go on with our conversation this morning, we shall be giving you our WhatsApp line so you can actually get to also participate in our conversation this morning. Now, this is exactly what is clear, that the inaugural talks are set for tomorrow. The venue, now we do know of it, Bomas of Kenya. How we did arrive there was just a back and forth of exactly how these talks were going to happen. Good. What is clear though is we know who is going to participate in those talks. Yes, we do know the 10-member side and also the 5-a-side member, with Olusegun Obasanjo in the middle. That is clear. So now let's talk about what is not clear then. It is the issues for discussion, all the issues that every other side is saying, well, we're not going to discuss. Good. Joining us this morning, as introduced earlier on, we do have Prof. Ogola with us this morning, Nabiso Brian, and Ken Sankara with us this morning. Let me start with you, Ken. In the lead to these conversations, where these conversations are going to take place became an issue. Up until yesterday, that's when we don't know that we're going to the Bomas of Kenya. But then the azimio side is saying, do not talk to any other person until these talks are done. We're only going to release a joint statement. But then Kimani Ichung'wah is saying, I don't see why. If you want to come and join in the talks, they're public talks. And so we're going to go that out. So the how about these talks are going to go down tomorrow, nobody knows yet because they've not agreed on it. Should they be public talks? Should they be private until a joint statement is released?
Thank you, Simba. First, I want to thank you for having me here today on a short notice. And also today is my birthday.
Well, we're going to celebrate it shortly.
I'm very happy. You know, 8th August, or 8th is synonymous with the not British, but the Greek Pythagorean of infinity. Yeah. So I'm a child of infinite possibilities.
Ooh, you can't say.
On the issue of Kimani Ichung'wah, the talks, I mean, in a conversation, there are guardrails of dialogue.
Yes.
When you go for a dialogue, why are they dialoguing before they can actually sit to dialogue? All these nitty-gritties that they are talking about, these are things that they ought to have been discussing while seated. You know, you cannot dictate how people are going to speak before you can even settle to speak. So you find out that Kimani Ichung'wah-led team and even the Azimio team, the picture they are trying to put in public domain is that they cannot actually agree to sit down. So I see the entire exercise as a waste of time.
Yes.
Because why would you dictate the how? You know, we have the how, when, in a conversation. So the when has been decided, the where has been decided, but the how is the issue. You cannot tell me what to speak and what not to speak, yet I'm coming to speak with you so that we hear out and iron out our disagreements. That is dishonesty of the highest order. So Kimani Ichung'wah should just hold his chills, let the process peak and go its way until that particular point in time.
Yes.
When they are actually going to speak and give us a joint statement. Why would you call people to discuss the content of discussion? Why are you even having the discussion in the first case? There must be privacy, and whatever it is, they should all remember is that as the people of Kenya, who are neither aligned to Kenya Kwanza nor Azimio, we have our expectations of the dialogue. Our expectations are crystal clear. They are very loud and bold. Whatever it is they are going to discuss,
yes,
we have irreducible minimums that we are waiting for it. And by the way, I told you this one last time. There shall come a time that even Raila Odinga will not have the capability to tell the people not to do ABCD. The people shall decide for themselves. So when we are speaking of the cost of living, it is not affecting Raila Odinga. Even if bread were to be sold at 15,000 today, I believe some of the political moguls we see around, I mean bigwigs, they will still be at a position to purchase.
Yes.
It is only me, you and others who may not be in a position to purchase. So we as the people of Kenya, we have our irreducible minimums, and we are telling them that whatever it is they're doing, let them just do. When they're done with their fierce course and bravado, we will give them a direction.
Pretty much. Prof, but the man has spoken. It's a good thing that he introduced the show this morning. Let's ask this question. That what is not clear right now, even as we are saying, yes, the second round of talks is going to start. The how, not clear. The what, not clear at all. Now, the issues have already been decided on, which is, you would say, it's a success or a proper development from any other Kenyan who's watching. Because up until last week, Kimani Ichung'wah was even saying we need to go under a tree and then talk about these things and get them done and dusted. So, when you look at it, what is the difference between these talks and the first round of failed bipartisan talks? Because indeed, the what and the how was also an issue in the first round that led to a complete collapse.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much, Simba, for having me here, and also our viewers for listening us and following us on Lookuptv. I think that why we also like Lookuptv is the conversations are really open, that you can be able to express yourself, just like Ken saying that. To be honest, there are so many things that needs to be asked more than even the question you're asking. The first of all is that, why were we on the street? We're on the street because Raila Odinga led people to the street, but also people on the street because of cost of living. Who was on the street? It was Raila Odinga, Azimio people, and also some Kenyans on the street for different reasons. Now, if some Kenyans are on the street for different reasons and they are not in the talks, is it a fair thing in the first case? Because there are some people went to the street because of cost of living. Now, Raila was on the street and he had his own things he wanted to sort out. The Kenyans on the street who are so killed, who are injured, who lost property and lives were on the street. Were they not in Bomas? And another question you have to ask yourself, Kenya Kwanza was not on the street, which means they had no issue. Where have their issues all of a sudden emerged from? Because they were not on the street. Actually, they should not even be talking about which issue should be discussed, because they had no issues. They should be listening to the people who had issues to front their issues. So what I see is highest level hypocrisy from Kenya Kwanza, because they had no issue. Where have their issues all of a sudden come from when they say done and dusted? So why is the done and dusted now emerging? So that is sincerity. So the other thing also saw is the two sides now. Why has Raila Odinga accepted to negotiate with RUTO and left the Kenyans who are with him on the street? Because if Kenyans were in the name of the street, and we see these dynamics, in 2017, he went at the front of Harambee House and shake hands with Uhuru and left behind Kalonzo Musyoka, left behind Wetangula and Mudavadi. And they complained there were principals in NASA. Now, he has left the people who has even made these talks to be possible.
Has he left them, Prof?
Yes, he has. Where are they? Why on the street? Why didn't he go alone? Then go to Bomas alone?
He's saying that we have to talk about the cost of living, which was
no,
one.
He's left them, my brother.
Yes.
He's left them.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? The pattern is here. In 2007, people went and fought, isn't it?
Yes.
Died, isn't it? They had the accord. They were not there on the negotiation. They got breadcrumbs, isn't it? In 2017. So there are people who are shot. When Raila landed from the US, you see the kind of tear gas that was there and the bullets that were there. Those people never went to shake hands with Uhuru, isn't it? Where the issue, we came with a fake BBI that wasted our time and money for a long time and achieved nothing. This same thing will achieve nothing because we don't see an end in game, because the person who was at the heart of it, Raila is fighting for Kenyans. Where are they? The Kenyans must be there.
Well, when you look at that particular committee, that is well represented, they're saying, well, we have to get one representing the government, one representing the minority, then get a member of parliament representing both sides, then get people outside parliament, all right, who've got the best of the interests of Kenyans at heart to also come and join that committee.
Who are these people?
Is that not a proper representation?
According to me, the presentation is this,
Yes.
We should have multi-partisan talks. Simba, we discussed this a lot. I was the first person. Immediately after they mentioned the first thing, I told them, don't take us to parliament, take us to Bomas. I'm sure you have those clips in Lookuptv.
Yes.
When I said we go to Bomas, Bomas was not supposed to be a place where politicians are sitting to discuss. If there are parliamentarians taking parliament to Bomas, then a waste of time going to Bomas. Bomas has a reputation for bringing the People's Assembly, all Kenyans who have interest in this, because so many people have so different issues. Media have an issue. Media people are being shot left and center. Media has challenges with the government of Kenya. If you don't have as Lookuptv, I don't know. But the government of Kenya had issues with media. You had the talking of Moses Kuria, Ichungwa against the media.
Yes.
So we have issues with media. In fact, the person who should convince these people, even if you put up aside Olusegun Babasanjo, is the Media Council of Kenya. They're the ones who organize a presidential debate, isn't it? If they can organize a presidential debate, why don't they be part of this so that we can have people documenting this thing without cynicism?
Yes.
So media should be invited. The private sector should be invited. The politicians, of course, should be invited. Civil society, CBOs should be invited. We should invite all Kenyans of goodwill to come to the People's Assembly so that we deal with the Kenyans' issues once and for all. This makeshift for people having deals with politicians will never end the issue. Moi met with Raila and did MOU. That has never solved our issue. Kibaki accord with Raila has never solved the deep-sitting issues. Uhuru had handshake with Raila. The attempt at the BBI World Building Bridges initiative was supposed to bring some kind of decorum in politics. It didn't solve it. Now we are back here again with this. Do you want again in 2027, after elections, still do talks? How are we walking the same path and we are achieving wrong results and we still think we are going to do something? For me, I'm not going to be interested in following a path we have followed, which has not solved our problems, and pretend the monkeys are the same, the forest is the same. What do you expect to be different? Nothing.
Ambeswa, why is the government presenting issues to be discussed on this second round of negotiations? Why is the Kenya Kwanza side saying we have issues that we want to discuss? Why couldn't we see the Kenya Kwanza side say, bring on your issues so we can discuss them? It's the same question that I've kept on asking, but I've never really got a proper answer from any other person who's supporting the government. Why would the government say we have issues to discuss?
Thank you, Elijah, for having me, and to the viewers. First, Elijah, this dialogue is all in place because of the issues related to the people, the issues affecting the people. Azimio was on the street because of the issues affecting the people. Now, when they are going to dialogue at first, those issues are for the people, and because of the people is why they are on the street.
Yes.
First, I really support Kenya Kwanza's stand that all these conversation should be in the full glare of cameras and the media so that we can see our issues being discussed in public, because it is because of our issues that the dialogues are there. Two, what Kenya Kwanza is saying, we are only going to discuss issues that affect the people. First, the cost of living. Two, the other issues we are hearing about IEBC, about the servers, what I've heard from them is that these issues are not the real issues affecting the people now. Let us discuss the issues affecting people. And during the bipartisan talks, I even said here previously, Kenya Kwanza, whatever they are doing is implementing their manifestos and their promises they gave to the people. For them, their issues is what they want, they are doing what they want to do. If it is around the cost of living, they have their policies. They have their policies to implement. Now, Azimio, they have their issues they are coming with. But what the Kenya Kwanza is telling them is, let us discuss the issues affecting people right now. And these issues should be in line with the Constitution and the rule of law.
That's fine. Nabiso, then why would they present their issues? Because we looked at the issues the Kenya Kwanza side presented, isn't it? The reconstitution of IEBC, they want to talk about the entrenchment of the office of the opposition, they want to talk about the embedment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. But are those the issues that Kenyans really want to talk about right now? Nabiso, the embedment of the office of the Cabinet Secretary, the entrenchment of the CDF kitty, are those the issues that Kenyans want to talk about? Do Kenyans want the office of the opposition leader?
Some of these issues, you remember the first parliamentary meeting, the first Kenya Kwanza parliamentary meeting, the president gave orders or requested the members of parliament that when they go to the house, they have to work on the issue of creating the office of the office of the official leader of opposition. There was an issue with the CDF where the court, there was a court order that barred it, and of which, in my own view, I've always held that this thing of CDF should be done away with. The court also ruled on that. Now the president gave an order that they should come on parliament and also entrench on that issue. Now, when there is an opportunity for dialogue, the government also have found it wise that these issues should come in, because like the office of the Prime Minister, you remember the Azimio's side have always held that this thing is not in the Constitution, we don't need it. We've had some of the members several times saying that they don't want that office. The office of Prime Minister, which is now the Prime Cabinet Secretary, which should be in place, it's never in the Constitution. But now, if the talks are there, they want also, they get it as an opportunity to discuss that one and agree on it.
So that who gives them this solution? You're the government, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So you're the government. Yes, Ken. You're the government.
Yes.
Shouldn't you be finding other ways to implement this? Follow the law as the government. You have the strategies in place. Why are you using these talks to introduce this?
But initially, if you remember, Elijah, it was to come to Parliament. It was to come in Parliament.
On the entrenchment of the office of the Cabinet Secretary.
Of the Prime Minister.
Of the Prime Minister, isn't it?
Which is the Prime Minister, leader of opposition.
That's it.
And CDF.
Yes.
Those issues were to come in Parliament.
Yes.
And when the order came through the first parliamentary meeting, remember, there were some Azimio leaders who said no to this.
Yes.
Like especially on the office of the leader of opposition, which is the right thing at the moment.
Ken, I want you to jump in. First, on the first issue of should these talks be public? I want a clear response from you, Ken. Ichunga is saying, well, it's a Kenyan issue, so we want it to be as public as it can get. Should they be public?
Public is relative. Ichunga should tell us that what does it really mean by a talk being public?
From the first get-go, when they start and open these talks, everything will be on public record. That's what he said.
I said there are guardrails that contain constitutional dialogue.
Yes.
There are terms and conditions that they've set amongst themselves. They have to respect them. If the conversation is that we are going to represent the people and speak when together after the talks, that is what they have to stick to. But again, I don't have a problem. Why should we discuss public matters in solitary confinements? We should discuss them where the people can actually see and hear. I want to go to Bomas. You know, let me tell you something. Yes. I was in a presidential campaign team. The questions you see people asking the president, those are people who have been programmed and placed there by Dennis Itumbi. I will tell you for a fact. When we were at Kasarani launching the plan, and that's why I've criticized the president's plan, because what I launched at Kasarani is different from what President William RUTO is doing. These people, you will never get an opportunity to ask the president straight question, because you are going to be very thorough in the question. So they would plant stooges in the crowd and give them mic to ask very silly and stupid questions. Where we need serious questions asked. Number two, Kenya Kwanza is also presenting issues to be discussed because they've not believed they're in government. The governance and politicking part actually being a difficult thing for Kenya Kwanza to differentiate. The president is not even sure whether he's the commander-in-chief. He's still doubting. I want to tell the president, you are the CIC. Just accept that they are the president. Why should a government present issues for bipartisan talk with the opposition? They boast of parliamentary majority. And I just said the other time that this is now the test where we will actually come to tell. I said the president is confusing parliamentary majority with popular legitimacy. When we all talk in open grounds, yes, that is when the people will come. I will go there, and even if the president is seated there, he has the mic, I will ask him questions unapologetically. I have that right. I am a citizen. I voted. I am protected. I don't need to fear anybody. When we discuss matters of national interest, there should never be element of fear or favor. We should call a spade a spade. My friend here is telling you that we should have the talks to entrench the office of the Prime Minister and the Constitution. Professor Ogola, I want to task you with this. Please, if you find time within your busy schedule, go to court, file a petition. That position Honorable Musalia Mudavadi is holding is null and void. Kenya is overrepresented. I will tell you for a fact, go to China. China has got one of the leading world's population. Look at the representation in their country. Here we have the women rep. We have 290 constituencies. We have 47 counties, with every county with a governor, a deputy governor, a senator. All these people are running chauffeurs of vehicles. These are SUVs, fuel guzzlers. These people have got security. Are you aware, when I was walking to this place in the morning, I met people sleeping in the streets without housing. You hear some people heckling here, they want to do affordable housing. To who? How? The plan is not in the mix. So we are not going to hold talk to create jobs for billionaires.
Yes.
When we were doing the presidential dialogue, or when they were vetting the government appointees, Prof, you'll agree with me, my former boss, Honorable Musalia, said his net worth is over 4 billion. Everyone was surprised. So why should we create a job for a billionaire? And myself, I'm seated here with my fellow colleague young people. The only laws they are proposing is that when you graduate, you go and work for the government for free, while you've been funding this government for the last few years you've been on earth. Stupidity must not manifest itself in words. Even actions may insinuate stupidity.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Prof.
Yes.
Even as we respond to Nabiswa's sentiments, I want to give you 2 minutes just before we come back, so you continue with your thoughts. That the Azimio coalition is saying we do not want a conversation of a power share agreement. Now that is clear, seems very succinct from both ends.
Yeah.
In just 1 minute then, why is the president so vocal about it, and why is Raila Amolo Odinga so vocal about this particular issue for we do not want a power share agreement? What we want to talk about is the issues facing Kenyans. Once we come back, then you and I will do an audit of the issues presented from both ends, so we see who essentially is then presenting the issues that Kenyans want to talk about right now. Why are those two gentlemen vocal about a no power sharing agreement? If you've agreed it, then stop talking about it.
Yes.
In 1 minute, we come back.
In fact, why the Kenya Kwanza like talking about handshake, they campaigned saying that the economy is bad because of handshake, and they believe that anytime they say about handshake, they get some kind of sympathy from Kenya. And Raila Odinga is also now trying to say, I am distancing myself from this handshake thing. And if you look at Martha Karua's statement, said, we do not want nusu mkate, we want a full loaf of bread. And that's why the server, Kalonzo, said, we will call His Excellency the President once the server is open and states that he is the President-elect. So you see, this is what is going to happen in Bomas is something you have no idea about.
That's
so what, as I can say, everybody is trying to distance themselves from this from azimio, and Kenya Kwanza want to say that now you are bringing handshake and we don't want it. So that's the conversation going on.
Pretty much. Once we come back, Ken, I want us to come back. Once we come back, then Prof is going to expound on that particular one, as we also task the panel here today to look at those particular issues that are getting presented from both sides. Which are the real Kenyan issues currently? Once we come back right here on The Morning Drift, because both sides are saying our issues are the issues that we want to talk about publicly, the issues that Kenyans want to hear about today. Once we come back.
Hi, and welcome to Tujenge Home. Your number one show when it comes to all things architecture, real estate, property development, interior design. You get it right here on Tujenge Home. When the food is ready.
You want to serve them?
Dinner is served. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution, or a university, and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today on 011 0430 158, 011 0430 158, or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Drift. I want us to go back to the sentiments of Prof just before we went on a break, and then extend the same issue to Nabiso Brown and Ken this morning. On that particular issue for we do not want a handshake. And if you look at the Standard this morning, I don't know whether our director can actually get to post this morning, so we see what the president spoke yesterday about that particular issue for power sharing deal. This is what he said, not quote unquote, he said, now I hear our brothers have agreed that there's not going to be a handshake. We also do agree on that. The only thing is, we tell them to stop violence in the country, then the talks will go on, or we will listen to them. If you look at that particular quote from the president. Good. But what is very vocal in both camps, Raila Amolo Odinga is saying, I do not want a handshake. It's not a handshake deal that I'm going for. RUTO is saying, well, we will not give you that. All right? Which makes us then look at the issues that both sides have presented, Prof.
Yeah. Because now the question is, if you look, also remember that Operation Gatuzi brought out their own issues that actually we put them side to side by the 5. And I'm sure that's something we can discuss during the break. Then you can see whether you can just highlight them. I can send to the producer. But the main thing here, if Raila Odinga do not want power sharing, so then these items he's talking about, they're leading to what? Because what's the end game? What's the end game in Bomas? How would success look like after the Bomas? That's what we should ask ourselves. Because if success will look like, for example, they are saying cost of living. I can tell you, and this is very clear, the fact that Raila has accepted to go to Bomas with these people, when they are saying we don't want cost of living, does that mean they are sincere? If the Raila Odinga says cost of living is number 1, and you are open in saying we will not discuss it, don't bring it, and you are still going, does it mean that
it's going on the basis that it's going to bring it up?
No, come on.
It's not
Simba, you'll make me give a very bad example.
Prof, it's not been rubber stamped.
No, but
we have two statements from both sides. The first Kimani Ichung'wah statement, isn't it, that he said we have agreed to discuss this. Well, Opiyo Wandayi comes back later and said, hold on, no, you went right ahead and released a statement of the issues that we're going to talk about. For us, we're going to talk about this, all the way from inclusivity to the cost of living. This is exactly what we're going to talk about. Guess what, Prof? Since then, we haven't seen Kimani Ichung'wah come back and say, well, now we've put them here. And we haven't seen the azimio side come and say, well, this is exactly what we agreed on. What we do know is that when they're going to go to the inaugural talks, you would like to think that the azimio coalition is going to say, well, now these are the rules for this discussion. We have our issues here. The azimio side, the Kenya Kwanza side is also going to say, we have our issues.
Let me make this practical for you.
Yes.
Let's talk about a negotiation we are very aware of. You are going to negotiate for a woman dowry, isn't it? And there must be some conditions that you are negotiating so that you can take the woman home, isn't it? If you say you are not interested in the woman, how will elders sit to discuss about a negotiation about dowry? Or if there is no, we are negotiating but I'm not in love with this woman, how will even the negotiations begin? What is critical here to Kenya, to Azimio, if they are sincere, that's why I told you, the two sides, no one is sincere. None of them. Don't believe any of them. According to me, if they were sincere, the people involved was more important than the issues. If you wanted the issues to be discussed, they could be civil society, because remember Robert Alai went on Twitter and he ranted and said, yes, they agree that cost of living is not the work of politicians. Cost of living is the work of civil society.
Yes.
Am I wrong? And civil society is not there. So if you ask me, there should be a discussion. But let's just go back to talk about the issue of the handshake thing. The Kenya Kwanza managed to explain this very well when they went and brought about propaganda campaign by saying that he was the wife, which means him and Uhuru Kenyatta was the wife, isn't it? Then Uhuru Kenyatta went and brought a hoe in a relationship. Those are the words which were used for campaign.
Yes.
And the hoe distanced the real wife. And that was the narrative of betrayal. And handshake was used to really, really radicalize Mount Kenya, that there was a marriage between him and Uhuru Kenyatta with the promise of 10-10. Now the betrayal came with a handshake that killed that marriage. And an unfaithful woman was brought into a relationship that destroyed not just that 10-10, but also the manifesto for Jubilee. And that's why you see even Jubilee is in a war. So this handshake is a deep-seated issue. And that's why you find that Uhuru Kenyatta, anytime William Ruto says, "Huyu jamaa anataka nusu mkate," a handshake made the government too expensive, it's derailed our manifesto. He used that to campaign and win office. And therefore, his supporters would have felt very bad if they were going into a negotiation with the handshake on the offing. Also remember, there are some people who are meant to lose a lot. If there was to be any power sharing, who are the casualties? Gachagua will be a serious casualty. Remember, Kalonzo was Kibaki's government when Raila did the handshake with the Kibaki. Immediately there was a carpet. Who should get the half of the carpet in the order of ranking when you are calling Prime Minister, and you know those incidences. So remember that even Ichungwas and these guys and Mount Kenya, now let's say the guy who represents let's say Kenya Kwanza and Mount Kenya is Gachagua, they stand to lose. And that's why even within Ruto's inner circle, they had to tell him, we cannot allow power sharing. Because any power sharing means that when you share power, you diffuse it, isn't it? So the ones who are powerful in Kenya Kwanza, they won't maintain those powers. So that's why the battle is there. And also, you know, Raila has been branded that he's the main cause of the cost of living now. The cost of living has gone up because of handshake. So if you bring handshake, you cannot solve the cost of living. At the same time, they're talking about the debt that the country accumulated. Yes. It's also being put on the handshake. All the projects that never succeeded under Uhuru administration, handshake has been the blame. Yes. Handshake has been blamed for many things. So everybody, that's why both of them want to run away from handshake. And what is it that is the end game for me? The end game for me here that could be good for Raila. Let me talk about what could be good for Raila, but I think should be because of nation. For us, the end game should be for Kenya. And the end game should be bringing all the parties involved, all because Kenya is a multi-party democracy. Bring all the parties involved. Let's go to Boma's answer the question. What is Kenya's problem? Let's forget about Raila's problems. Let's forget about Kenya Kwanza problem. Yes. All those issues we are discussing there are not the issue. And that's why for us as Operation Daguri, we say that the issue is not about IBC. The issue is about the governance structure of the country and by extension, electoral structure. What do we mean? By pure presidential system, you cannot get the prime secretary involved, prime minister secretary. You cannot get prime minister there. Opposition cannot be there because the current structure of the constitution says that we have a pure presidential system and there is no opposition in this structure. So that's why they are struggling with it. The issue of the CDF, those illegalities which are being run, I can tell you, Ken, we have a petition which is going to court on looking for how to bring out of office Musalia Mudavadi's office, which is allocated 751 million per year to run that office. And it's illegal because there is no constitutional provision even to wire that money to him. Yes. Actually, he is surviving what we call a slush fund. In fact, another petition is to go to court to look for how government must spend based on Appropriation Act. In fact, I'm sorry to just explain it a little bit because I'm trying to do this for me is constitutional moment should take place in Bomas. Seriously, can you imagine that a government can borrow money without Appropriation Act? And the government can spend money without Appropriation Act because they expunged it from the Constitution. And therefore, can they do what, like now they talk about debt audit. Out of the money Kenya has borrowed, more than half have been borrowed without Appropriation Act following. And they expunged it from there. So we need a serious question to ask. Is it the system of government that is the issue? Yes. Or the issue is those in government? Pretty much. And how can we come with oversights so that for the first time, Kenya can benefit a normal Kenyan than to benefit politicians? Because the current constitution is meant for politicians, is not meant for Kenyans.
What is the end game? And Nabisa will be coming to you. What is the end game, Ken? Yes.
The constitution is not a creative convenience. And that is what most of our politicians have mastered.
Yes.
They've mutilated and tampered with constitutional principles that guards the rule of law and governance. I said something about politicking and governance. You may be in a government office, but you don't have the acumen, the wherewithal of being a governance expert or personnel in that capacity.
Yes.
Back to the talks, and I will touch on some of the few things the Prof has brought about. I'm from Kisumu County. This hyped state-sanctioned police brutality majorly manifested in the Nyanza region, right?
Yes.
I walked into the mortuary of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital. It was a sad moment seeing young people of my age, brothers lying side by side. Why were these boys shot? Why were they killed? These people were smoked from their houses, beaten like thugs. Yet Al-Shabaab is already taking 60% of Mandera. The governor just said the other day. These are boys who was taken out of their houses from Nyalenda, beaten, they got casualties and they died in the process. Now the question is, when the bipartisan talk composition is being done, where is the youth factor? I've not heard of young people who are going to sit in that panel and also air out their grievances. Remember, when you do, I have a data that if I leak today or now, when IS will come for me, immediately I leave this place, the police will be at the gate. That is the data that the government will not tell you of the casualties we had in Kisumu and in Nyanza region. Most of the people who died are young people. Why are they being left out in the composition of the bipartisan talks? Did you see a 70-year-old man being beaten and killed in Kisumu or in any other part of the country? It is the youth. So there is no sincerity when the young people are not going to be part of the conversation.
Yes.
We come from the group of the most disadvantaged in this country.
Yes.
You find every other problem, all these bipartisan talks and everything, they will narrow down to the youths. It is us who cannot afford food. It is us who are exposed to drug and substance abuse. It is us who bear the cost of state-sanctioned police brutality. It is us, the young people, who are being harassed all over in this country. So anything, there is nothing for us without us.
Yes.
We must be in the picture.
Yes.
The office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, we have to detach it because it is not affecting us in one way directly, but it's also affecting us indirectly. I'm talking as a taxpayer, leave alone all the other things you know about me. Why should I pay tax for an unconstitutional office? I went to the ballot, I elected an MCA, a woman rep, an MP, a governor, a senator, and a president.
Did you support BBI?
I did not. In fact, you know, the media do not forget. The internet do not forget. I've been crystal clear. I said the BBI itself, it was a bipartisan talk that requires non-partisanism approach. The people who were coming for the conversation, they deliberately left the things the Kenyans wanted to discuss. And you ask yourself, you know, at times politicians mesmerize me. They come up with some cooked and crooked data that even a mathematical, how do you call it, an economic graph cannot explain.
Yes.
And then they tell you the people. Who are the people? You know, the people, the term the people has been misused a lot in this country. You find someone cooking their own data, raw data from nowhere, and then they come, the people have said. So I would say for a fact, and I don't want an explanation or an apology, BBI deserved the death it died. In as much as they were propagating at something as a solution, it was one of the most, the catalytic agents to the problems we already have. So, briefly, I'm just trying to tell you that without us as the young people in the picture, in this conversation, the conversation stands insincere. And why would you go for a talk, just as Prof put it, why would you go for a talk that is already predetermined, that is already dictated? The government has no issue. They should come there with their pens, sit down. Maybe they have advisors who don't know what they should be telling the president. They should come and listen to what we want to tell them. You don't tell us, come and discuss this and this. Did you even raise issues before? It is the people who went for Mandamano. The government was not demonstrating, but they also demonstrated, by the way, to counter demonstrations. Very funny. So the government should not tell us they have issues to discuss. With who? They are in power. They have MPs. They have everything. They have the solution. It is them who appointed this treasury CS, who has the chances of 3/10 discussing the matters economy, and Ndi, who is just an economic advisor, has chances of 7/10 discussing economical matters. You wonder on what merit was they appointed to be the CS treasury. So a lot of these things do not make sense in a sensible world.
Nabiso,
yes.
I want you to jump in.
Okay, Alija, let us try to be pragmatic here.
Yes.
You know, these talks are here because, and sometimes, I'll really say this, you know, our politician will always really want to take us for a ride, you know. Every day, the Azimio people could rally their supporters on the street. They were saying that we are going on the street for the price of unga to drop. That is true. Recently, they were saying we are going on the street so that we can lower the cost of living can go down, the finance bill to be dropped. Now, majorly, even that common mwananchi who is in the village, in Webuye where I come from, he knows that Azimio went on the street so that the cost of unga can go down. That's true. But the government told us that we have a mechanism where we are going to lower the price of unga that is from production. This issue of having subsidies, Kenya is losing a lot of money through this. So let us lower the cost of living from production. Already, Kenya Kwanza have the solution to these issues in their own wisdom. Now, if at all we want to go for talks,
yes,
to lower the one major issue is lowering the cost of living. The cost of living can be lowered when we have policies in place. Where this policy formed, that is in parliament. We have to go in parliament. Now, you cannot tell me that let Kenya Kwanza come, sit, be told what to do. Why are we having parliament? Let these guys now go to parliament, raise their issues in parliament through their members of parliament.
Yes.
Now, if we are having talks, we are going to discuss. If it is an outside parliament, like now the setup we are having, it's the talks. Let us go and talk. You want us to come there and listen to you, we can do it in parliament. But now if you want us to talk, let us listen to you. And also as a government, we have some issues we feel they can provide better governance, but they are not within our legal time frame.
Yes.
One, the government has been straight.
Yes.
That let us have the office of the official leader of opposition in parliament or in our constitution, which is not there, so that this leader can raise the issues of the opposition, which the opposition feels that they can. They are present.
We have the majority and minority in parliament.
Yes. Nabisa Goran. Yes.
Let us have this leader who can raise these issues instead of creating some unbearable atmosphere outside the parliament. Now, the cost of living right now, it's high. We need to zero rate. We need to zero rate products. We need to have we need to have subsidies. We need to lower to work out on the VAT. We need to have economic policies.
Yes.
They have to be formed in parliament,
yes,
to be done in parliament. They will not be done even if the dialogue report will come out. It will come to parliament. It will also be discussed. It will be passed. Now the only difference is these guys will have a consensus. Kimani Ichung'wah will come and say we have agreed and this is the way. Opiyo Wandayi and Kalonzo will say we have agreed, this is the way. They will pass it. But are we being sincere actually with what we need? Yeah? From the from the first stance where you will hear a leader say that we don't want to discuss this thing in parliament, what is it that these guys want to discuss behind the doors that they don't want people to hear? Secondly, they are telling us that we don't want nusumukate. You know, I'm really trying to understand what does it mean by inclusivity. Kenyans went on in election last year in August. We elected the government. It was petitioned. The court upheld the election. The president was sworn in. He was given the power. Now, if in every election, after every election, someone will be coming behind the doors and requesting for a handshake, why are we going for an election? In every year we go to elect, we waste a lot of money going for election when we know that at the end of the day we will have the person who lost will be coming to request for a handshake.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Prof said something about the handshake being bad. We are in this country. We know what the handshake did for this country. One, we saw how the parliament was operating because everything, even the opposition, came to the government. Some bills were coming in parliament which were not favorable to us. Fuel came to 8%, courtesy of the handshake, because there was no one who could oppose that. It was eroded.
Simba, I don't take lies. I don't take lies easily. Let me correct my friend.
Yes, he has a minute. I'm going to give you that chance to rebuttal. He has a minute left.
I will forget.
Yes. No. Please, Ken, do not forget. Ken, please do not forget.
Why would you lie?
Sankara, do not forget, please. Now, just
the debt ceiling. You remember the situation where the debt ceiling was raised from around 7 to 8?
Yes.
It was in parliament. During the handshake time,
yes.
They were telling us, oh, our GDP is okay. We can raise. They raised the ceiling from 7 to 8. We saw it around 2020, around 2021, 2022, and the parliament was there just to rubber stamp. Yeah? You see the borrow where the approvals somewhere, even the control of budget telling us that the funds could be authorized through our WhatsApp group, billions of money. Yeah. These are the effects of the handshake.
Yes.
So we need to have a strong of opposition.
Yes.
It should be there. Let the government do their work.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much. Ken, we have 2 minutes left. I wanna come back to Prof. I'm gonna give you that chance, but do not forget, Prof, that in reality, if I'm getting a Biswa right,
yes,
this national dialogue now, it's a chance for a national dialogue on issues that also the government feels that this is the right time for us to talk about. That's why it's important for us to table a conversation on, number one, embedment of the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. We need to talk about the entrenchment of the CDF kitty to the members of parliament, among other issues, that right now is the best time, because it's a chance then for us to talk about what we think is right for the country at this particular moment.
Let me tell you what this talks is about 2027.
Yes.
Less to do with sorting out any Kenyan issue.
Yes.
If you look at the issues coming from both sides, now entrenching the prime secretaries in the office and CDF is awarding the MPs who have the highest number of MPs is a Kenya Kwanza government, if you like. Then awarding the Musalia Mudavadi and entrenching the office in the constitution would be something that can be used to dangle that carrot again in the next election. And if you look at azimio, the issue of IBC, they said they will have to do a bipartisan reconstitution of IBC. So the issues here are more to do with 2027. And if you can ask me, let me just give my statement about this. These talks is a waste of time. Why am I trying to say?
Yes, Prof, take a minute.
We've had a government full of complaints. This government complained about Uhuru Kenyatta, about Raila Odinga, about the handshake until during the election, before the election, during the campaigns. He's still complaining about his own cabinet, about his own PSS, about KRA, that they are corrupt. Bringing the issues he's bringing, and he's the head of state. For me, I can't go to KRA. If I'm the president, I go to KRA and tell them, you guys are corrupt. I'll arrest you. I have the police. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. What does he not have? Simba, let us not be lied to. RUTO is one of the most lucky presidents since actually after Kenyatta. Do you know why? There was no system, there was no deep state that brought him to State House. Uhuru, there was deep state, there was people who could hold him hostage. There was Mount Kenya Foundation. They would have held Raila hostage. This guy can crack the whip if he wants. And he's just not interested. Yes. Either he doesn't know how to do it. So according to me, don't listen to all those 9 issues they are bringing. Yes. This thing is about how they can win 2027 election. And Gachagua has been saying, instead of wasting time with the talks, prepare for 2027 election.
That's it. Guess what? Once we come back, by the way, we're going to look at those Linda Ugatuzi issues as well that the prof has mentioned, that we're going to extend again to the panel to talk about it. What is the end game in this? That basically saying best moment for us to talk about national issues other than what the Azimio coalition is presenting. Do you share the same sentiment? Once we come back with Sankara, jump back to Nabiso, and then the prof is going to weigh in on those issues as well. Once we come back. Good morning. The story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging that care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Kiage.
Beautiful, wonderful, glorious. We are having the show that we share entitled Shepherd Voice.
I'm waiting for you to get me to Kenya. That's what I'm waiting
for you.
God is the source of every blessings that flow into your life.
And I know that God is going to bless you and to do a new thing.
Pray, 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 pray.
And Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. Let's then table that conversation. We're coming back to Prof then as we continue to look at these particular issues that are presented by both sides as whether indeed there are Kenyan issues. Ken, I want to bring you into the conversation. We're going to give you a right of response to the submission of Branda Biswa. But just before that, Sankara, when you interrogate these issues, Senator Biswa Brand is bringing in another train of thought. He's saying, well, if indeed we are going to talk about the issues of the opposition, this is a better time then for us to table a conversation of a national dialogue, in the sense that we as a government also have other issues that we are pondering about. So can we then weigh in and try and see whether indeed we can have a platform, number one, if indeed you're saying, Ken, that whatever we talk about is rubber stamped and agreed upon. That means that we as the government also can have a chance to rubber stamp these particular suggestions here so that we do not have to carry them, number one, to the people of Kenya to change the constitution or referendum, or number two, take them to parliament where there's going to be a proper debate, or we think we might lose. So it's a win-win for us and for you as well?
The current constitution of parliament do not reflect on the democratic expectation of the people of Kenya.
Yes.
We have the separation, the principle or the doctrine of separation of power, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Currently, we have an executive that thinks it is the judiciary, it is the legislature, and it is still the super executive. So, in other words, I'm just trying to tell you that any talks that is aimed against Kenya Kwanza in parliament is a lost battle before it's even fought. The president boasts of parliamentary majority. You saw what the president did. Osoro was on media. They bought opposition MPs. And this is what baffles me with this Kenya Kwanza adherents.
Yes.
These people do not understand what they want. They want an active, vibrant opposition. When the opposition, when the same people are actually fighting to bring down the opposition composition by buying the opposition sellouts. Number two, the same government wants an active, vibrant opposition. When the people led by the opposition go to the street, they sanction outright state murder. You wonder what a vibrant opposition they want. Number three, or even if I leave it there, let me get back to my colleague here, Nabiswa. I want to educate Nabiswa for a few minutes. I'll speak. Nabiswa, this is your time. I know you people of Kenya Kwanza, you really
Nabiswa, am I supposed to give you my notebook?
Yeah, you deserve a notebook.
Nabiswa, you're just about to get into a lesson.
I want to educate you. Number one, you seem to be suffering from inadequate access of information, or rather, you tend to forget faster. You are in government. I want to believe so. You've just told me, or even if you're not in government, you just told me that this 8% fuel issue was brought out by handshake. Do you know somebody called Aden Duale? Don't respond. Aden Duale is the current CS Defense. He was the former majority leader in parliament.
Yes.
Just keep quiet. I want to educate you.
Yes, Sankara, go right ahead.
You don't ask the teacher when
Sankara, go right ahead.
So, Aden Duale was the majority leader. When you talk about debt that was moved from I don't know what scale to what scale, do you understand the parliamentary procedure of approving debts? Majority leader, actually, I want to tell you, if there are people lying about, to ask the people of Kenya about debts, maybe they can, not all the listeners belong to the UDA school of politics. Some of us can neither be in azimio nor in UDA. The deputy president, Dr. William RUTO then, who is the current president, is aware of everything. Number two, Kimani Ichung'wah, who was the chair of committee.
He had been
just a moment. Yes. Just a moment.
Yes.
He was the chair of that committee.
Yes.
During that time, he was
let me leave Kimani Ichung'wah when you want to protect him. Let me go to Aden Duale. Yes. He was the majority leader.
But he was
today, majority leader
was in handshake.
Don't interrupt me. Today, majority leader who is Aden Duale.
Give him time.
Aden Duale, who was the majority leader, is in government.
Yes.
Kimani Ichung'wah is the majority leader today. They have the audacity to walk around the country and tell the people the handshake, the debts, only fools can buy that. I want to beg. I'm not a fool. I may not buy that. Number two,
yes.
So when you come here to tell us that the fuel issue was actually brought about by handshake, that's a brutal lie. And when you said that is what you said. I'm coming to that 8%.
Yes.
The 8% you're talking about. Now you just said that the government, some of these issues we need policies. I want to tell you something. Kenya boasts of super governance policies all over this continent. Actually in Africa, we have best policies unimplemented. So when you want to tell us that the fuel issue, the 8% was increased, well, it was increased, but I've just told you who and who was in which position.
But you are wrong.
I'm subjected to be wrong because I'm a human. I'm not 100%. So what I was meant to tell you is between 8% VAT,
yes.
All of us shop daily, and 16% VAT. Is that what you really mean, Nabiswa, in your right senses? I'm thinking as a young person, is that what you mean by handling these economic matters in parliament? when you can actually come with a bill that proposes to raise the VAT from 8% to 16% in a row.
Okay.
This is coming at a time
yes.
that the country is battling with an economy that has left the major population to hand-to-a-mouth kind of economy. Actually, go down there. People don't buy food to stock. Nowadays, people don't eat ugali and leave it and give chicken. Chicken are left on their own to survive on the microorganisms in the soil. The food that is available for consumption is only for the people who are there. So it is outright lie for someone to come and tell us that we can discuss these matters in parliament. I would tell the president and the opposition leader Raila Odinga,
yes,
do not accept your political hardliners or to be captives or hostages of your political hardliners' future political prosperity. There are things you can discern and do away with at the moment.
Yes.
We must not sacrifice somebody's life today to give somebody a political life tomorrow. That is inhuman and injustice,
yes,
and uncalled for. Let us know some of these things they can decide. But actually, let me tell you, if Raila and Ruto decided today that they want a serious bipartisan talk, it will happen. I can tell you. The opposition leader wields the power of the opposition leader. The president is the CIC. He will tell Eshunga, you know what, stop backing. I know you're my defense dog, but this is my time.
Yes.
Stay aside.
For the match.
These things can work.
Yes.
But here comes where the president has got, the president is very smart when it comes to communication. If you do communication skills, you'll understand. He has mastered the art of doctored message. When he goes to Mount Kenya, there's a particular way he speaks to the Mountaineers. The president, when he goes there and he says handshake, he invokes the hatred against the former president. Because this government got in power,
yes,
by demonizing Uhuru Kenyatta, the handshake, and Raila Amolo Odinga in central Kenya. So to me, I don't take offense when the president is very vocal about handshake and etc. in central Kenya. It is a way to contain those people after they are taking Michelle and Nyama.
Yes.
That's how to contain them. I have no problem with that. I would want to hear the president talking about the same issue when he
yes,
goes to Western Kenya.
For the match.
When he goes to Migori.
Yes.
All those selective places he goes across.
Yes. Nabiso, I'm going to give you a minute, please, just a minute, because I want to cross over to Prof. I'm going to give you the right of response, just quickly before we cross over to Prof.
Actually, Sangara requested to educate me.
Yeah.
Now, he just reminded me of a teacher who went in class and he found students who are more clever than the teacher. During that time they were passing the bill, Kimani Ichung'wah had already been removed from the chairman of the committee, and himself said that he had been put in a Mandazi committee. Eden Duale at that time, and he even himself came out and said that he was in Jubilee. The handshake was between Jubilee and Raila Odinga, that's ODM. Those people who were against the handshake had been removed from their committees and the chairman of the committees. Eden Duale at that time himself told us that the president kept on begging him that I want you to be there, but don't support the handshake and don't support William Ruto. So for him being the leader of majority at that time, it was the coercion. It was because of the coercion, and he was being just
resigned. So what I forgot to tell you,
and he was advising.
What I forgot to tell you,
I have
is
1
that
minute.
Yes,
I have 1 minute.
The president said. What this all after the resigning and etc. What Nabiswa is not remembering is that the entire draft to have all this put in place were done when still these people were in office, and that is where I stick to, not when they left.
Nabiswa in 30 seconds, please.
Now, let me answer him. Even now, as the ODM members of parliament who are telling us that they cannot, why don't they resign as member of parliament so that they can elect other people who can debate in parliament? Who resigns in this Kenya who has a position?
I don't speak for ODM.
Yes.
But I'm just giving an example.
Let me cross over.
I'm just giving an example. I had not finished.
Yes.
Now, that time, it's when the borrowing ceiling increased, and the borrowing went up to now. We are being told that we can only borrow below 1 trillion. to finance our budget. And even the president himself has been on record, even during campaign, that we will not rely on excessive borrowing to fund our budget. That's why we need to look on ways on how we can fund our budget ourselves. And as we speak, the increase of 8% on the fuel to 16, it was a source that has been analyzed that we have to fund our own budget.
Yes.
That's why they saw it wise that let us as Kenyans, let us have that Harambee spirit to finance our budget ourselves instead of borrowing. You know, Elijah, like myself, I know what I earn from where I work. I cannot keep on borrowing and borrow excess than what I earn. At the end of the day, I'll have to pay with an interest on it. Yeah. You see, is it sustainable to you to borrow? And this is the reason we cannot continue borrowing. Right now as we speak, gas, it's zero rated. It has gone down. It is a deliberate, it is one of the deliberate solutions that we can see that the government is giving us a solution on it. Look at the farm produce. For those people who farm like me, I'm a farmer, and I can tell you as we speak, Elijah, we are going to harvest, and by the end of this year, we are going to have some of the products in our shelves reduced. Now, talking of we cannot discuss our some issues in Parliament because our member of Parliament. I've never seen any supermarket in this country where I can go today and buy a member of Parliament. The member of Parliament who have made the deliberate some of the decisions that they are going to work with the government, because they see there is no need for us to be creating a demonstrating atmosphere every day, and we see some of the effect that has done. As we speak, we have a Wayaki supermarket somewhere here in Wayaki along Waruku. That supermarket only has over 100 employees. For the last 3 weeks, it has been closed. Why? It was stormed during Mandamano, during the Wednesday demonstration, the last demonstration. Those people who have lost jobs there, how can we explain of that? How can we even explain of those police officers who lost their lives during the demonstrations? And why is it that the Kenyan demonstration always will lead to destruction of property as we compare to other countries where we have seen demonstration have been there very peaceful, and at the end of the day we have seen those kind of peaceful demonstration in other countries bearing fruits.
Pretty much.
Teachers have been demonstrating in these countries. In this country, teachers have been demonstrating, doctors have been demonstrating. At the end of the day, their bargain have been heard. So it doesn't mean that for you to demonstrate, you have to destroy people's property, you have to cause a standstill in a country.
Nabiso, I'll be coming, gentlemen, I'll be coming back to you.
See me one day. When you see the problem,
I'll be coming back to you. Yes, Sankara.
And not the police.
Yes.
It will consume you.
And Sankara, I'll be coming
back. Right, because when I meet demonstrators on the road and they know that I don't support them, they will stone me.
Let me cross over to Prof. And Sankara, maybe this is something that I want you to keep on thinking about, because I'll be coming back to you after the submissions of Prof. And this is what Kimani Ichung'wah tweeted yesterday. He said the cost of living is a government prerogative, all right, not subject to talks. And why is Azimio keen to help us address the cost of living? Kenyans will judge His Excellency President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza administration anyways at the labs. Now this was not 2 years, it's changed. He's now saying after 5 years now, come talk to us. After 5 years, that's when you'll come and judge us about the cost of living and any other promise that we did make.
He's right. Because at the end of the day,
Prof, let me, as you respond and react to the submissions of Sankara and Nabiso, when in reality did these talks change? Somebody's asking the question. Are we putting too much weight on these talks when the Azimio coalition was clear from the get-go why they were demonstrating? Here we are talking about the youth issues, and they didn't tell us in the first round that we are in the street because of youth. They said we're there because of the cost of living and a couple of issues that we want the government to address. As the opposition, why are we giving them more weight now with other issues when they were right clear from the get-go that these are the issues they want to talk about? Even in the communique that they released in reaction to Kimani Ichung'wah's communique, they said, for us, This is what we want to talk about. Why is it all of a sudden now we want them to include more people and talk about other issues that they didn't want to talk about?
Yeah, you know, in war there's what they call human shield.
Yes.
And I'm sure that will explain the situation. Yes. Kenyans are just a human shield. Kenyans are being used as a pawn. And that's what is we actually are going to quote, by the way. You know, I want to tell the young men here to start looking forward than looking behind. When you manage Chungwa, which committees, you can spend, actually, this is an important thing to think about, Simba. You got to choose where you take your time. You can spend your time moving forward, or you can spend your time fighting fires at the back. But the reality shows that if you don't choose, it will be chosen for you. Yeah. So me, when I go home, when I hear, for example, my wife and children talking about, 10 years, no, we are focusing forward. And ask you can go on and say, where was Ikamani Chungwa, where's, all these guys are totally is the same monkeys, in the same forest. There's no one who is different here. In fact, your generation can change this, but if you change your mindset. The young people you're discussing about, I don't see youngness in mind. I've listened to you. And I'm wondering if this is the next generation, where are we going? Because there's so much to correct. So I want to finish your point, then I go to what I want to submit about them.
Yes.
That as far as I'm concerned, there's no sincerity. Everybody is looking for a bargaining chip. And people are being used as a bargaining chip. Kenya Kwanza is using the manifesto as a bargaining chip. And Azimio is trying to use the people as a bargaining chip. So to be honest, I'll see honesty if you call what's called national dialogue, People's Assembly at Bomas.
Why?
That is, but you see now, there are deep-sitting issues.
Yes.
Why is it at every other election people have to talk?
Yes.
For me, that's a Kenyan question.
Yes.
How comes that every after election, people are dying, and we are going into talks?
Why now? Why are we calling for national dialogue now when majority of Kenyans didn't feel that we wanted to go into a national dialogue? Because are we not infringing
at
on
the moment we have discovered
push?
Simba, you'll win an election one day as a president.
Yes.
Then someone goes to the street. Do you want that to happen? According to me, I'm concerned that now it's become a Kenyan issue. Cost of living is an issue. And now, if you allow me, let me just go to the point I was trying to put down here, because these guys were talking too long, and it's very important to get this clear.
Yes.
First of all, let me tell you the truth. RUTO, before RUTO became president, Uhuru was the president who borrowed highest. Isn't that true? If you look at the debt taken by Moi, Kibaki, and even Kenyatta almost borrowed nothing.
Yes.
But now, if you come to Uhuru, he borrowed highest. Can you imagine that record he had? RUTO has borrowed more than Uhuru did in the first 9 months. If you look at the Star, July 28th, go look at it, because I'm giving you facts, isn't it? He stated he had borrowed 1.2 trillion in 9 months. And now the prediction is, if in 1 year you borrow 1.2 trillion, multiply that by 5, isn't it?
Yes.
How much will he borrow? 6 trillion, isn't it? No one has ever hit those records. So the fact that he's telling us that RUTO said that they are not going to borrow, they are going to finance budget, I think those are serious lies, and they're misleading. So my brother, just come out clearly, because listen, you still have a young career. You don't have to die for RUTO. Politicians, is not worth dying for. Tomorrow you'll come to a company where you need to be sitting as a board member. I'm sitting as a chairman looking at you lying on television telling people that RUTO is borrowing less. How will I trust you sit in my board? You are talking to some people where you're being listened to, some business people listening to you and looking at you as a young man. You still have a young career. But let's just be honest. I don't want to argue about that. I'm just trying to tell you. Me, I've quoted for you the Star newspaper, 28th of July, 1.2 trillion in a span of 9 months as president is amounting to a certain figure.
Yes.
So another thing,
Yes,
just wait. Another thing is about the issue of the issue. You told me these people have a plan.
Yes.
I'm an expert. You can have a plan, but you have no strategy. Strategy is how will you execute the plan. Why is it that 10 months down the line, people are still suffering, cost of living is going up, and you had a plan whereby they said immediately the Bible is dropped down, cost of living will go down. Is that what they told us?
That's on record.
Now I'm wondering, how heavy is this Bible? It has not come down. The Bible is still on the air. It is still not coming down. When will this Bible come down? Or it is too light, or it's too heavy. So you had a plan, but there was no strategy. The second thing, the team to execute the plan. Look at them. The president himself complained about, told them they even have no idea what they are doing. This is the word of your president.
But he said some. He said
no,
some.
I don't care. Some they should go home. I'm
They
the head
may
of
be
state.
men. Yes.
Let me tell you what. I met, and this is true. My wife can hear. I told her, excuse me, I won't sit down and tell me, oh, you know, I married a woman like this. I married. No, I'm the one who chose you. You didn't choose me. I'm the one who seduced you. So when you come to my house, I won't sit down to complain that I'm complaining about my household, you know, my family. Simba, you'll never hear me sit somewhere discussing about that, my family. No. I'm the head of the family. We have some situation whereby the driver is complaining about where the car is going, and he's the driver. So here we have a head of state who is seated in the driver's seat complaining where the car is going. This is dangerous. So you tell our boss your plan, you're supposed to take us to Machakos. We are now heading toward the escarpment going to Naivasha. We are still waiting for you, you'll take us to Machakos. So even when Kimani Ichung'wah says that the cost of living is only for the government to address, I disagree because they have failed to do it. Let me try about the subsidies. This is very important because we have to rectify these economic things Kenya need to understand. The president has said they are going to subsidize production, not consumption, isn't it? Then last week he said in State House that he's subsidizing fertilizer. It moved from 3,500 to 2,000.
Yes.
No, from the last point was from 3,000 to 2,500.
Yes.
The one in State House, isn't it? Now, let me tell you what. Fertilizer constitute 6% of the cost of producing maize, which after maize has been produced, 1 kg of maize after production is 70 bob. Now, if you add, so just 6% of 70 bob, that's fertilizer, if we are talking about the issue of per kg, you understand? Now, if you go down the history, you find that inputs, we have fertilizer, we have labor, we have seeds, we have storage, we have transportation, we have milling, we have plowing. If you put all these things together, fertilizer contributed the most insignificant proportion of cost of living. So the most important one is fuel, because you know when you're plowing land, you use a tractor, isn't it? When you're harvesting, you have to use a means of transportation, isn't it? Storage must be kept where there's light, isn't it? There must be people being paid, workers and all these things. Milling, you cannot mill maize with water, you have to use fuel. So remember that by increasing cost of fuel, you have significantly increased cost of living. And as an economist, I'm seated here, Simba. My house is not far from this place. You come to me and I'll tell you, 10 years down the line after this government leaves office, maize, unga will not go down, because the most important thing is the Finance Act.
Yes.
If the Finance Act continues to stay in office, completely, I can tell you nothing happening. Then the issue of the debt, I'm finishing.
But I want you to hold on, but then I'll come open with you. I want you to clear on the debt because we have to go for a tiny breather. Once we come back with Prof and then talk about that, because we'll be moving into the last part of our conversation this morning. Then there's an issue that the youth have to answer on our panel today. That when we started out, you supported the move on the cost of living. Yes. Opening of the IEBC service, yes, you did support it. That's why you're in the street. What are these other issues you want to talk about now on this panel that you want the Azimio coalition to also go in and talk about? Is it not losing the agenda? What was the agenda from the get-go? Why can't we stick to it once we come back?
Once again, tuko hapa Angel Center for Abandoned Kids, all because of you.
My name is Catherine Wanjiru. I am the admin, Angel Center for Abandoned Children. Our founder is Wamaitha Mwangi. We currently have 64 children, 32 going to school, and among those 32, 2 are special children, and we are left at the home with 32. Now the toddlers and the infants. To the LUTO Foundation, thank you so much for remembering us. Guys, we lack words. We lack words. Amazing. We don't know what to say. Thank you for remembering us. You made a promise and you have delivered. And may God bless you. To my fellow Kenyans, as usual, cheza LUTO, sio ndoto. Angel Center tumeshinda LUTO.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the LUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro. Every Sunday, saa 10. Jiunge na mimi ili nikufundishe mengi kuhusu ukulima wa nyanya, wa mboga, kuweka ng'ombe, kila kitu ambayo inahusikana na ukulima, ili ujifundishe mengi, uweze kujua ukulima pia ni mali. Kumbuka kipindi ni nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na manjoro, upate hela.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution or a university, and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today on 011 0430 158, 011 0430 158, or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
All right, let's come back to it then. I want Prof to clear his sentiments, and after that I'll be jumping to Ken, because there's a question essentially they have to respond to, Ken and Biswa together, because that's a particular issue that we're receiving right here on exactly the direction that these talks then are going to take. Is it too late for us to come in and say, well, what about this once we come back? All right, good. Prof, you are at that particular point where you're addressing the issue for debt.
Yes. Actually, sir, I told you that the borrowing, the wanton borrowing, and let me just put figures. In the first 12 months of Uhuru Kenyatta, he borrowed 437 billion shillings. RUTO has borrowed 1.2 trillion shillings in 9 months, not 12 now, 9 months. And telling us that he will finance our debt using the Finance Act is a lie, because the Finance Act, if you look at the incremental money which will be borrowed, it's not even a trillion. It's something like 640 billion shillings that will be additional funds coming from Finance Act. So what we're trying to say here, there's a lot of lies. That's why Operation Jamii, which is Operation Lookuptv, has just prepared a petition. I've been wondering how to follow it. I've just read law and discovered you can do what's called a judicial review. Judicial review means that you go to court to ask the judges to task the commission, KRA, Revenue Allocation, Treasury, and the Attorney General that we allow a review of the Kenya Debt Register and the Asset Register to tell us whether the debt we are being told we are paying, all those ceilings are talking about, whether they are real or actually they are just made up. Because let me ask you, my brother, with the amount of borrowing that RUTO has done in the first 9 months or 10 months, if you like, and go back again and ask yourself, what big infrastructure project is he doing? I'm seeing him opening water, borehole. These are projects which Uhuru Kenyatta began before, which money had been put before. There is no any big infrastructure projects going. Where is 1.2 trillion going? So, and in fact, Kenya need to ask themselves, where has money gone? And your friend Kimani Chungwa said this when in Molo, that Kenya collects 60 billion a day.
Yes.
300 billion a month. That translates to 3.6 trillion a year. Our budget is exactly 3.6 trillion. So this additional borrowing we are talking about, which has been put in the budget, where is it going? In fact, rather stark statistics that Uhuru paid more his debt in the first, Uhuru spent more in paying debt in the first year of his presidency than RUTO. So they have been telling us the reason why the economy is bad, they are spending more money in repayment of debt. That's another lie. So what I'm trying to tell you, Simba, is that without all this due respect, I don't want to say we know, and that's why I'm going to quote, I'm going to give this petition by Friday. You'll see it live on television. We are waiting that we do a serious debt audit of this country. Jimmy Wanjigi gave us a highlight of a debt haste. I studied that document, but I was following how can I look at it legally. I actually found a way. I've drafted the petition, I have a draft here, I've been reading it. On Friday, we are going to court to really go into the depth of it. And I'm thinking that these are the key issues to discuss. And now the one you ask about the hustler,
yes,
the hustlers need to agree they were misled. And my brother is still there in that kind of dream. Someone cannot cheat you and all the promises are not working,
yes,
and you still hope they are working, because you should be in this government as a hustler. Mama Mboga, Boda Boda should be in this government. They are not. Billionaires are running this. In fact, when the cabinet was appointed, they said a billionaire hustler cabinet. That's what was written.
Yes.
The hustlers were cheated. In fact, I'm waiting for the point when hustlers will say, we were cheated, we are back to our senses, and the hustlers are the prodigal son in this government. They are the prodigal son, because we thought those of us who are in, let's say, another segment, I wasn't azimio, of course, I'm no longer there, but I was there.
Yes.
We thought we were the first, we were the prodigal son. But now we discover that actually for us, we're in the right place. The prodigal son who needs to confess and say, I'll go back to my father because I'm eating with the pigs, is actually the hustler.
Very much. Nabiso, can I, but I want you to hold, yes.
But it was a small, I think.
1 minute, because I want to cross over to Ken. Yes.
What I really wanted Professor to tell us,
yes,
and tell viewers,
yes,
he compared the borrowing of Uhuru Kenyatta in 2013 when he came in office, after taking over from Mwai Kibaki, and he is also comparing William Ruto when he took over from Uhuru Kenyatta. I really wanted Professor to tell us the GDP of the country and what Uhuru Kenyatta found in Treasury,
yes,
in 2013, and the GDP of the country in 2022, and when William Ruto came in. Now, you remember he talked about, yes, the fertilizers.
Can I be coming to you? But
he talked about the fertilizers. He talked about the. I come from Bungoma. We do farming. I don't know whether Professor maybe is born in Nairobi. He doesn't know about farming and whatever.
You're born in Nairobi.
Let me tell you.
Yes, that is so clear.
He doesn't know Bungoma.
Yes.
When during the handshake, that is 2020 to 2022,
yes,
we used to buy fertilizers at 700 shillings. You could come in Bungoma, ungepata, the shambas were just plain. People were not farming. Because why will you buy fertilizer at 7,000 when the bag of maize itself, the farm, the produce, yes, costs at 4,000? Why? Yeah. So right now, when William Ruto put down the Bible, he reduced the fertilizer from 7,000 to 3,000. That's why you come, even me myself, Simba, I'm a farmer.
Yes.
I can tell you. I wish, Simba, you would have told you, I would have come with the receipts of fertilizer to table them here so that Kenyans can see.
Yes, yes. Nabiso, but hold on, I'll be coming back to you. Ken, even as you respond to whatever Nabiso has submitted, here's a question that has been put to you. That indeed, the Azimio coalition put forth their demands in the first round of bipartisan talks, they were deemed right. Nobody came back and said, oh, wait, add this. All right? Now we're in the second round of negotiations. All of a sudden, number one, we want the youth represented in that particular committee. We want other issues that were not part and parcel of the first round of that push to be included. Now we're talking about police brutality. We're talking about youth representation. We're talking about other issues that the Azimio coalition didn't present to you or to the government as well. Are we turned courts?
Simba, in response to that, it goes back to what Prof said earlier.
Yeah.
We do not need a bipartisan talk. What we need is a national dialogue.
When did it start? When did we realize, Ken, that indeed what we needed was a national dialogue?
We just realized that the propagators of these bipartisan talks do not actually mean to execute what they are agitating for.
Yeah.
Actually, they are using these other factors as scapegoat to achieve their hidden agenda.
But what is the state of the talks right now? Is the Azimio coalition still not sticking to their first demands?
Why would Azimio even accept to sit with Kenya Kwanza when Kenya Kwanza says that the cost of living is a government prerogative and not subject to discussion? So is Kimani Ichung'wah saying that Kenya Kwanza, I mean the government is the only person affected by the cost of living? These people don't even know the cost of unga. The president just said, I will fit this in his statement. He said some of them do not know what is happening in their ministries. Maybe they do not know the cost of unga is retailing at how much in this local retail shop. So I may be right. I'm just fitting my thoughts in president's statement.
That's a quick analogy. It's like giving a visa to Israel and telling you you cannot land in Jerusalem.
Yes, that is what the president is trying to say. Prof, you are very wise. So, that said and done, I'm just trying to tell you that we don't need this bipartisan anymore. Actually, this is a waste of time. We have no monolithic patience to wait and see the back forth tweet from Gerard Gay and Kimani Ichung'wah.
What I want to come clearly from you is that when did we realize that we don't need
We realized when we analyze. You know, we are human beings. We have the 5 senses. We can observe. We can see.
When
can be clear. I'm very clear. We realize on the fourth and you are even going to let me not speak what I wanted to say.
That's it.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
We gave them time. The Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza, they went for first session of bipartisan talks. It backlashed. We went to the streets. They called it back. You know the tone. You don't need to tell someone that we don't need you around. You just observe, feel, and then you conclude. Had
the first bipartisan talk succeeded, would you have been happy?
It would not have been. It would not have succeeded. And by the way,
just a scenario. Would you have been happy, Ken?
Based on the issues that were presented. First of all, the cost of living.
Yes.
Simba, let me tell you, I am a father of one, and I'm a father figure to many people. The orphans, even in my family alone. So when we talk about cost of living, I'm not speaking from a point of misinformation. I speak of what I know. That said and done, when we speak of government subsidy, I want to put a clear case. Yes, the president is zero-rating fertilizer, which was donated by Russia. That is the only... I'm not asking you for a question, my friend. I'm just speaking. Just keep quiet. It is me speaking. The government, I just saw the tweet from Russian embassy the other day. I'm not, I'm not being accountable to you. So you choose what you want to consume. I'm not here. We are in a conversation, but do not disrupt me.
Sankara, continue.
So let me say this.
You've been interrupting me 1,000 times.
I'm not responsible for your inadequate access to information. That should be very clear to you.
The issue on the table.
Let me address this. I was saying some of these fertilizers were donated by Russia. When they come here, the government tells us they have been subsidized. That should be very clear. You know the Ukraine war that this government said the cost of living is courtesy of handshake. They just realized the war in Ukraine also had a direct impact on the cost of living. there is the international geopolitical factor that affected the Russia's exportation of fertilizer and etc. They resorted to dump them in Africa as a donation. So I don't want to know whether they donated it and subsidized it, etc. Yes. So this is the case. Someone is dying of hunger in West Pokot. A government authority lands in West Pokot in a government chopper full of subsidized fertilizer. You are saying you are not going to subsidize consumption, but you must subsidize production. Now I'm asking, we must have figures. How many people do farming in Kenya? In as much as food security is the backbone to a sustainable economy. How many people do farming? Someone is dying in West Pokot because of hunger. You are distributing to them subsidized fertilizer. Prioritization. Because this fertilizer, they're not for the specific group of people in this country. They are meant for Kenyans. Is that so? Is that so? Mm-hmm. Everyone is entitled to them. So we are dying of food, and you are subsidizing us fertilizer. You are telling us you are zero-rating production. Prof just put it clear. When you go to the farm, when you do a meaningful farming, even this Kenya Kwanza there, and they post pictures of them in farm with tractors. They don't plow with the cows, they plow with tractors. There is the element of fuel consumption in it. Why would you raise the price of fuel, VAT, then subsidize fertilizer and expect production? You may lie to some people some of the time serve with people, but not all the people all the time. Number two, when I die today, out of unclear circumstances, what do you do as a government? You do post-mortem. We went to an election. There has been the back and forth pull that we are not satisfied by what was put there. We want to actually know what happened. Let us dissect this body called server, see what is inside, and then we get our satisfaction. You are telling us that Sankara is dead, but we cannot do a post-mortem. You have to accept the fact that Sankara is dead. The president is saying, I won, I am the president, there is no audit of electoral results. That is what they are trying to tell us. Some of us may disagree, and here I am disagreeing. So, you see, you look at these things all together, they don't tally if you have to have a sober conversation. So, I'll just conclude by saying, yes, the bipartisan talk has missed its objectives. Yes. Let us call for a national dialogue at Bomas of Kenya, where someone like myself will come and give their opinions. Number two, we are going to do zero-rated production. As we produce, remember we are not going to bury people until crops mature. Maize take up to 6 months. We are not going to die because we are producing. Let us try to remember that people need to eat as they produce. Remember, countries, since I was born, the first time I'm seeing Mount Kenya, how do we call them? Clinically, medically fit food for vulnerable people. That is the relief food being distributed in central Kenya, where production should be at its peak. I don't know whether when the president goes to Mount Kenya and these leaders, they distribute food, don't these people from Mount Kenya remember, see that the Bible is not in the president's hand? He just said, nikiweka Biblia chini, unga itakuwa sabini. Maybe the Bible is still sticking in his hands and we can't see. That is subjected to microscopic views.
I want to cross over to Nabiso. Yes.
First and foremost, the issue of fertilizer should be short-term and long-term. The long-term thing of fertilizer is fine, but the short-term is that if I find you sick in your deathbed and you are suffering from hunger, and I tell you here is fertilizer, and somebody comes and say here is maize for food, which am I responding to? The president has to know that different Kenyans are at different circumstances. Some of them actually are dying of hunger right now, and they need food right now, so that does not happen. The second thing is that you must subsidize production, but also you must subsidize consumption. Because if people can't afford what you're producing, whom are you selling it to? Because the maize we are going to get will be more expensive than Kenyans can afford it. That's why even if you add a lot of taxes on alcohol, people start drinking illicit brews and stop drinking the right thing. And then lastly, why are we realizing now that we have to have a national dialogue? According to me, my point is this. If RUTO has accepted they need to talk to Raila, has he accepted there was something wrong about the election? Because If there was nothing wrong about election, why are we talking? And the fact that he realizes there is a need to talk, he has somehow accepted that there was something wrong about election, that's why they are talking. Because why should they talk if you want the election free and fair, and there is evidence beyond reason of doubt? Because he was told, open the server. If we are seated here 4 people, and Simba, you suspect that I've taken your wallet, and you're telling me, friend, if you are sure you have not taken my wallet, please open your coat. I will open my coat, isn't it? Yeah. You check. Yeah. So if someone says, open the server, open it. Yes. If there's a problem, then that's why you're keeping it. Why are they saying we should not open the server? We can't discuss a cost of living. Yes. So we are discovering now as a nation, someone is cheating us. Either azimio or Kenya Kwanza. That's why we want to go to Bomas to establish who cheated us. Did IBC cheat us? Did Azimio cheat and they lost the election? Did Kenya Kwanza win election unfairly? Yes. We cannot tell, and that's why we are going to Bomas.
Pretty much. Nabiso. Yes,
final
response.
I'll start by, actually, I will not rely much on malnutrition information from my good friend Sangara. Yes. And whatever they are talking of, it's more of theoretical. I think it's something they learned in social studies or geography or so, is what they are feeding us today. You know, when it comes to farming, I know maybe being a professor in Sangara, he's only talking about farming. You know, he even talking about West Pokot being a farming. West of Pokot does they keep livestock. They don't farm.
You didn't get my point.
Now,
what I said is
now
someone is dying of hunger.
Let him deliver the point.
The subsidized fertilizer, the Kenyan subsidized fertilizer is given to regions which do farming, farming, that is crop farming. Yes. These other ufugaji regions, they have their own, they have an agenda where they improve their livestock production. Now, for us, the maize bag, that is the bag of maize, and I really, sometimes I really love watching your business and your business segments. You go to a market now, things, the farm inputs have gone down. I saw your presenter the other day talking about how the sack of potato has reduced by almost 1,000 shillings because of the subsidized products. Yes. Potato. I'm talking of potato.
My friend, go lie to you. Just go lie to you.
I'm explaining. In fact, yes. So, our bag of maize used to cost at 5,000 shillings. Yes. Bag of maize. Yes. The bag of fertilizer cost us 7,000 shillings. Will you do farming? We won't. We wouldn't do farming because of that increase in fertilizer. But when it went down, at least there is something you will get out of from your farming. Yeah. Now, the government have their agenda, and the agenda was we are going to reduce the cost of food products from production. Right now, the millers, there is a section of are there millers who are still telling us their subsidy, the money meant for the subsidy with the previous regime, the handshake regime, is not yet paid. And those guys told us they set aside money. Where did that money go? If the millers are still demanding for the subsidy, where did that money go? Yes. And when the president came in, he told us that this subsidy, we are going to lose almost 4 billion. Is it 4 billion every month in subsidy? Why can't we embrace the Harambee spirit and reduce this cost from production? Yeah, it is the best way for us as a country. Then and it's going to give us a long-term solution. Yes. Rather than having a subsidy which will work, we are putting in 5 billion or 4 billion for this month. Next month, we are also requesting 5 billion. The other month, 5 billion. In a year, that's 60 billion. That 60 billion alone can subsidize farm inputs for a whole year. Secondly, this dialogue is there. Yes. The bipartisan came in place because of azimio. One is that azimio, they still don't believe they lost the election. That's why. And most of them They are used to being in government. Yes. I'll give you an example of some guy who comes from our place who cannot even win an MCA election, and he has never run since the time he was just installed by the elders after his father's dead, Eugene Wamalwa. Eugene Wamalwa has been used to being in government, being picked as the MCA when he as the CS. When he comes, people run around. Nowadays, he comes back in the village. Nobody runs to him. Now he realized that I need to be in government. So these people are looking for a way. Of pushing the government to be given something. There is nothing about the people. This talk is there is nothing about the people, and this is the reason why they don't want to discuss it in cameras or on TV. The bipartisan talks collapsed, and I think Prof, just to be clear, bipartisan talks collapsed because when it started, these guys came with other issues which are not for the people. The only issue which is for the people in these talks is about the cost of living, because telling me about the server.
Yes,
Simba.
Yes.
No,
about
the server. How is the server affecting me? When we went in court, we were given an opportunity to tell us how the election, how you won the election, but you are not announced. William RUTO was announced.
Yes,
you failed. Apart from that, they just sang to us Piki Piki Pongi instead of telling us, look here, in Nyeri, Raila Odinga won, but you announced William RUTO. They didn't do that. Now, 6 months after election, Kioni came because he wanted to be relevant. He told us, Simba, I know about a whistleblower somewhere. Now they're starting to tell us, open the server.
30 seconds, yes.
Elijah, yes. You report daily. Does William RUTO have access to the server? The courts are there.
Simba. Let me cross over the other side, because we gotta clear this show, gentlemen. As it is now, here's the thing, Sankara. I'm not gonna give you a chance to respond because we are out of time. This is the only thing we're gonna do. This is the only thing we're gonna do. I want you to shake hands. Yes, with Nabiswa. Thank you very much, and Prof as well. That's it. That's it. Here's the only thing that we're going to do. We're going to give you a chance, just have a sit, to address the nation on what you think you're going to achieve today as you turn a year older, because we are celebrating your birthday today. So just 15 seconds, State of the Nation address. As Ken Sankara.
As Kennedy Sankara.
As it.
I'm from the youth, I'm Kisumu County. As the Youth Senate, I serve under the Youth Senate Kenya. And as my young people, or fellow young people know, that I have the interest of the young people or my colleagues at art, I suspend financial advancements, enticements, just to remain the pragmatic, independent me to stand with you. Because this future is more important than what I consume today. As I turn a year older, I have made observations, I have made conclusions. The young people we have around, let us not suspend our individual political consciousness in favor of sycophancy, because the pool you are digging today will either drown you tomorrow, not unless you know how to sail. So as you dig knowing where you dug deep and where you dug shallow, so that you master the art of survival. Because at the end of the day, this country needs you, me, more than ourselves needs this country.
Thank you. Ken Sankara, happy birthday, man. Sasa tunangoja utuambie mali ugali iko, kuku na mbuzi.
Mimi hata ugali naweza kula hata hapa. Wanipigie ugali hapa. I have Prof here, I have Nabiswa with the government money. The subsidy they just took from the... Please, this is the right time to share with your youth.
Guess what? Take this gentleman back to the time that the journalists are online today. And if you want to, by the way, wish Sankara happy birthday, you do that to our social media platform. Na kama uko na kitu ya kumwekea kwa pesa, pia tuma hiyo kitu kwa pesa tuwekee Sankara, ndio wa celebrate birthday yake vizuri.
Ama niwaambie namba.
Pea namba, leta namba bwana.
Namba ni 0790.
Na vitu zitakuja kwa hiyo namba, usiseme ni Lookuptv ilifanya.
90 79 93 46.
That's it. Do something to Ken Sankara's this morning. Guess what? This is it. I'll meet you tomorrow for another session. Goodbye. That's it from Morning Brief today.